Carlo Mays, Parliamentary Advocacy and Journalism Redefined.
The Deputy Chairman House Committee on Environment, Honorable Tessa Ugbor, has on Monday during Policy Dialogue on the Endangered Species Conservation and Protection Bill 2014, a bill sponsored by him, said the issue of wildlife trade requires multifaceted approach, stricter enforcement, community engagement and international cooperation, which will in turn play a crucial role in combating it.
This bill strengthens the legal framework for Nigeria in combating wildlife trafficking. It models the provisions of existing guidelines and establishes more stringent penalties for offenders, thereby serving as sufficient deterrents to intending offenders. The aim is to dismantle the wildlife trafficking networks and disrupt their supply chains, which will significantly deter the trade and protect endangered species and their habitats. Furthermore, the bill also promotes inclusivity between stakeholders and the community. There is a need for adequate provisions for community engagement, public awareness campaigns, and local empowerment initiatives. By promoting education, raising awareness, and empowering local communities, public awareness campaigns, and local initiatives, and by promoting education, raising awareness, and becoming guidance in natural resources, we can build a sustainable future where wildlife is protected and flourishes.
Amongst those present at the event are Honorable Minister of Environment, represented by Deputy Director, Department of Forestry, Federal Ministry of Environment, Rasak Adekola, UNODC, and others.
Strengthening of the policy, legal, and institutional framework is pivotal to our national approach to tackling biodiversity loss, environmental challenges, and climate change. The increasing population, coupled with transboundary crime, particularly wildlife and forest crime, has continued to mount pressure on natural resources. Although Nigeria is being dubbed as a transit point for wildlife trafficking, we are not losing sight of such crime being perpetrated domestically. The various subsisting laws and legislations have proven to be inadequate in addressing the problem, and this explains why we are here today, to subject the draft bill on the Endangered Species Conservation and Protection Bill 2024 to policy dialogue, thereby giving opportunity for stakeholders to contribute and make the document impeccable as much as possible.
Consequently, pending the adoption of the bill, Nigerian law enforcement authorities cannot fully activate the provisions of the UN Convention against Transnational Organized Crime and cooperate effectively with their counterparts in countries of origin, transit, and destination. The weaknesses of the current legal framework are exemplified in the minimal sentences handed down to wildlife crime perpetrators who have been prosecuted and convicted in the past year and a half, thanks in part to the seriousness of the Nigerian Customs Service. The low penalties in the current legal framework are such that they can be discouraging to the dedicated intelligence-led investigations and prosecutions that have made these convictions possible. It is therefore an important milestone in Nigeria's efforts to combat wildlife and forest crime that we are gathered at this policy dialogue to review the Endangered Species Conservation and Protection Bill, which will significantly improve the legal framework.
Speaking with media in an interview, Honorable Ugbor gave an insight on the importance of the bill to Nigeria and his optimism on the bill getting the President's assent.
My name is Honorable Tessa Ugbor. I am the Deputy Chairman of the House Committee on Environment, and I'm also the sponsor of the Endangered Species Conservation and Protection Bill 2024. Well, in 2021, there was a report that was commissioned by the Ministry of Environment along with the UK Environmental Investigation Agency and the Annie Foundation, the Nature's Investigation Foundation, along with some other international partners with the US Embassy supporting and what have you. And the reports show that Nigeria had become a hub for wildlife trafficking. It gave a lot of negative, outcomes in terms of Nigeria's role in facilitating trafficking in wildlife and things like that. And as an outcome of that report, there was a proposal that there was need for a comprehensive legislation that looks at the issues of wildlife crime in the country. And of course, this all goes into conservation efforts for both, not just for animals, but for trees and plants also. Nigeria has been a major exporter of a wood called rosewood, but we're losing a lot of that wood now because of overexploitation. So this bill seeks to protect not just animals, but also plants and our forests. So this is quite important because it has a lot to do with international crime, has a lot to do with money laundering, has a lot to do with even human trafficking. And most wildlife crimes pass through international drug routes. The smuggling routes that international drug cartels use, that is how wildlife crime is also executed. So if we can tackle wildlife crime, then to go a long extent in also helping to combat trafficking of human beings, of drugs, and things like that. And that is why you see the UNODC, the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, is also here today, giving their full support, because the mandate of the UNODC also covers not just drug crime, but wildlife crime, because it goes hand in hand. And it's a major drain on Nigeria's economy. It's a negative image on our global perception image as a country, when we don't have laws that protect environment or protect our nature. And these are things that are part of the treaty, the CITES Treaty, that Nigeria is a signatory to. Nigeria is part of the CITES Treaty, we're part of the Convention on Migratory Species, and we've signed up to this treaty, but we've not domesticated them. And so it is important that amongst the 180 countries that are members of the CITES Treaty, Nigeria is one of the few that has not taken steps to domesticate this treaty and enforce it properly in Nigeria. So what this legislation does today is to try to harmonize the roles of all the agencies involved in the environmental sector, so that we can properly spell out whose role it is to combat certain kind of wildlife crime. If it's in the national parks, which is the forest reserves, then the National Park Service has jurisdiction. If it's at the borders, which means the smuggling of this thing, then the custom comes in. Then when it has to do with the financial crime aspect of it, the EFCC and the police have a role to play, and that is why you see a wide spectrum of agencies here today. Oh yes, this is a major international issue. This is probably going to be one of the major landmark legislative bills that this 10th Assembly will pass. And I'm sure that the leadership of the House will definitely encourage that this bill is passed. The federal government, the Ministry of Environment is here, and you see they've thrown their weight behind the bill too. So I don't see too much objection to the passage of this bill.
Hollow Maze.